Hello, this is Jacob Moe, and today I'll be speaking on an informative topic, this being the three different types of communication. When I was younger, I was very naive in the way that I communicated with others. I would listen to what somebody said and would take it as fact and as face value. This means that I would think that everybody had the same intentions behind their sentences and statements that I had, which, as we all know, is not at all how the world works. At the time, I had not yet mastered the ability to determine the intentions of communication and the different styles that are available. I learned this when I was talking to my uncle. His name is Doug. He would always tell me to speak up and voice my opinions on things because I was a very quiet and timid kid. I just thought that all people were just like I was and that they were sometimes afraid to speak up and say things that they believe in. My uncle told me that some people are timider while some people are angrier. He told me that there is a massive difference between the two, and once you figure that out, you will be able to truly determine a person's intentions behind what they say. I have researched this topic for over 2 years and have extensive knowledge because, in my opinion, it is something that everybody needs to know more about because it can either make or break a person's work career or relationship with a close one. People need to learn the three different types of communication: aggressive, passive, and assertive communication. Being able to fully understand these styles will result in better relationships with your friends, family, and work colleagues. To help me explain this topic, I'll first talk about aggressive communication, why it is used, and how to pick up on it. Next, I'll talk about passive communication, why it is used, how to interpret it. And lastly, I'll talk about assertive communication, why it is used, and how to pick up on it. Aggressive communication is the easiest style of communication and is the easiest style to understand and to identify when somebody is using it. This style of communication can also have the most repercussions, like losing friends or family. Aggressive communication is a style in which individuals express their feelings and opinions and advocate for their needs in a way that violates the rights of others. This means that when people are communicating aggressively, they are usually taking offense to something you have said, the way you have said something, or many other things. But when people are aggressive, they are trying to be abusive to the other person that they are communicating with. Aggressive communicators will often try to dominate others with humiliation, to control others, criticize others, and also have a low tolerance for others, speak in a louder tone of voice, change posture, and many other things. This means that there are very many telltale signs that somebody is speaking aggressively, from the way that they talk to the way that they are standing. It can all influence how they perceive the other person. Aggressive communicators will often say things like, when they are angry, some examples are, "You're wrong," and "Get out of my way," "I'm better than you," and many others. These statements are very important to know because if you see somebody that is acting aggressive towards you, you can choose to either de-escalate the situation or just leave the argument. Leaving is usually the greater alternative because aggressive communicators will react negatively to criticism. Now that we have already discussed aggression, let's move on to passive communication. Passive communication is an important type of communication that is used by a lot of people worldwide. It is harder to understand and determine when somebody is using it. Passive communication is a pattern of not sharing your feelings and failing to protect your rights and get your needs met. Passive communicators fail to be assertive and allow others to take advantage of them. This means that whenever somebody is communicating passively, they are allowing other people's feelings and needs to be above their own, which results in people feeling helpless and also failing to voice their opinions. Passive communicators also share the same traits as people with social anxiety, where people feel afraid to speak up and stand up for themselves. This results in them feeling depressed and very socially anxious. Passive communicators will often allow themselves to deliberately or inadvertently infringe on their rights, tend to speak softly or apologetically, and exhibit poor eye contact and slumped body posture. These are the telltale signs that somebody is talking very passively. These are very important to know because if you see somebody behaving in this fashion, you can alert the person that they are talking in this way and actually encourage them to speak out and voice for themselves. This is very important because if somebody continues to suppress their thoughts and emotions, they will eventually reach a boiling point. This will result in a massive explosion of emotions and guilt. Now that we have discussed how passive communication works, we can move on to our last style of communication, this being assertive communication. Assertive communication is also an easy style to understand and pick up when somebody uses this style. This is the most used style and is actually used by the most successful types of people. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, and feelings while also considering the needs of others. Assertive communicators aim for both sides to win in a situation or a conversation, balancing one's rights with the rights of the other person. This means that when somebody is being assertive, they often have both parties' interests at heart. This means that they are not trying to control or dominate others socially, while not allowing the other person to control or dominate you. Assertive communicators will use a lot of I statements more often because it symbolizes that they are taking control and responsibility of the conversation, that they are not trying to shift the blame on the other person. Whenever somebody uses I sentences very often, it can very much mean that they are being very assertive. Some other signs that somebody is being assertive are confident tone of voice, consistent eye contact, the ability to say yes or no when needed to. These are very important to know because whenever somebody is talking assertively, you know that the conversation that they will have more substance than the conversations that are with people that are aggressive or passive. Now that I have discussed all types of communication, it is time to recap what I went over in this. Every day, people need to know the difference between the three types of communication. These are aggressive, passive, and assertive communication. In order to advance yourself as a speaker, in order to inform the listeners of this topic, we first talked about how aggressive communication works and how to pick up on it. Then we talked about passive communication, why it is used and how to pick up on it. And lastly, we talked about how assertive communication is used and why people use it. Once my uncle told me that if you can determine what a person's true emotions are, you can determine their true intentions. It is very clear now that everybody should know the three styles of communication because it can actually prove your quality of relationships and conversations in your life. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my topic. Thanks and have a very good day.